I want to bring in NBC's Gabe Gutierrez in Washington. NBC's Vaughn Hilliard is on Capitol Hill for us. Carlos Curbelo is a former Republican congressman from Florida and an MSNBC political analyst. Lisa Rubin is an MSNBC legal correspondent. So, Gabe, I mean, this is all part of the plan as it was all along, right? Move fast, break things.
Yeah, that's the point, Chris, isn't it? And the White House will say that this is what they believe the American people voted for. They want to cut, they say, waste from the federal government. And this is what they say, that they're moving very quickly to do it. Of course, there are plenty of legal questions here on whether they can do this, but they do plan to move quickly. And as there's so many questions about Elon Musk's role in all of this. Now, White House officials say we wouldn't be paying so much attention to this if it wasn't Elon Musk. For example, even though he's a billionaire with billions of dollars in federal contracts, they see it as more of a process story. And what they're trying to focus on is this cutting of wasteful spending as they see it. Now, yesterday, President Trump was asked about Elon Musk's role in the Oval Office. Let's listen.
Elon can't do and won't do anything without our approval. And we'll give him the approval where appropriate. Where not appropriate, we won't. But he reports in, and it's something that he feels very strongly about, and I'm impressed because he's running, obviously, a big company. It has nothing to do, if there's a conflict, that we won't let him get near it. But he does have a good natural instinct. He's got a team of very talented people. We're trying to shrink government.
So Musk is a special government employee, essentially not a volunteer, not a full-time employee, but he can only work 130 days on any given year, Chris. But the thing is that he can say he worked, say, a half day, for example. That only counts as a half day. But again, the Trump administration says that this is what the American people voted for, Chris.
Gabe Gutierrez, thank you for that. So, Lisa, there's a key question here about accountability. It's about the law. I guess it's about the Constitution. He was never elected, never confirmed by the Senate. As a special government employee, that's the proper term. Are there no rules, no limits?
Well, let's take Elon Musk out of it for a second, because you're right, Chris. He's not elected. He wasn't confirmed. And yet he is lawfully appointed as a special government employee. But think about the things that are being done in his name. Are those lawful? Is there accountability for those things? When I think about the fact, for example, that Treasury officials were forced to give access to a number of people allegedly acting at Elon Musk's direction to a payment system, there are some limits for that. For example, the Federal Privacy Act says that just no ordinary person is allowed to gain access to the Treasury's payment management system. There are rules and regulations around who can get access to that, in part because that contains many of our most sensitive and private information. The fact that DOJ employees went and got that access, we don't know whether they had the appropriate security clearances to get it, but certainly they are not people who are authorized by the existing legal framework to get that access. And on that basis, the AFL-CIO and others have sued for those actions.
So there's a legal part of this, Vaughn. Let me ask you about the political part, because Democrats say they're determined to stop Musk. But what can they actually do? I mean, and maybe a key question, can they expect any help from Republicans?
Right. Of course, there's a lot of legal questions here to this. And I was talking with Republican John Cornyn, who suggested that he expected some of these issues to come to a head in the courts here. But so far, we're not hearing any outcry like we have heard from Democrats, from Republicans who are expressing any concern about Elon Musk. They understand not only the political power, the governmental power, but also the online power that Elon Musk holds. I also tracked down Thom Tillis, Republican senator from North Carolina, and I asked him whether he had attempted to talk with the White House at all or express any concern about the access to the Treasury payment system or the OPM personnel database or to data from USAID. And he told me, why would I need to reach out to the White House, suggesting he had no concerns and that he would let everybody know when he did. But that point in time hasn't come. I want to let you listen, though, to John Kennedy, the Republican senator from Louisiana last night, who I caught up with. And the reason I want folks to listen to John Kennedy is because it had to do directly with Elon Musk and USAID and the effective crippling that Elon Musk and DOJ have done internally at USAID. Take a listen to Kennedy.
Some of my colleagues are screaming like they're part of a prison riot, that this is unconstitutional and wrong, and they're very process-driven. in my opinion, they should be substance driven. By that I mean the central question here is, what were we spending taxpayer money on? Whether the president had the authority to do it, and the allegations that Musk is copying down everybody's Social Security number, I think that's a distraction.
Whether he has the authority to do so, Elon Musk and the president, and suggesting this is a conversation that shouldn't be about process. Of course, as the congressman could attest to, so much of over the decades of American governance has been very much focused on the separation of the branches and understanding that Congress does have not only oversight of agencies, departments, but also that congressionally appropriated funds must ultimately be dispersed. I think that this is really going to be a conversation that is still so far from ultimately coming to a head. It's just beginning here up on Capitol Hill.
Oh, Congressman, just beginning. So what's your sense of why Republicans who have talked always about the Constitution and upholding the due process, are they content to let this play out? Why don't they see this as a constitutional crisis the way Democrats do?
Well, a couple things. First of all, it's early in the administration. We can expect Republicans to try to accommodate President Trump and his team as much as possible. However, the what here, which I think a lot of Republicans and a lot of people, especially those who voted for President Trump in the last election, can agree with: restructuring government, reforming government, reducing the size of government. The what, I think they're in pretty safe territory. The how matters also, though, and a reminder that all of these agencies and programs are both authorized and funded by Congress. So really, Congress doesn't have to do a whole lot for now because all of these laws and rules are in the books already, Chris. So the courts will be addressing this. And I think a lot of what the administration is doing is vulnerable to court challenges simply because it is in violation of some of the law, some of the procedures outlined by Congress. There are a host of laws that govern how the executive can conduct its business. And then you mentioned the political aspect of all of this. There's some risk there, too. Look, we've seen it many times over the last 15-plus years when one party moves too aggressively, when an administration moves too aggressively. In the next election, the pendulum tends to swing. So I think as some of these congressional Republicans start looking at fall of 2026, you can also start expecting some pushback.
So, Lisa, where is the legal line of executive power? For example, is it clear whether a president, this president, any president can just shut down an agency or an entire department that was created by Congress?
I'm going to give you a really unsatisfactory answer, and it depends. So, for example, USAID is not a creation of Congress. It was created by executive order by then-President John F. Kennedy, pursuant to a law that was enacted earlier in 1961 to sort of consolidate streams of foreign aid. But where the Department of Education is concerned, Chris, that may be a different answer. The limits of executive power, though, with respect to spending is the prerogative of Congress. It could not be more plain in the Constitution. And so when I look to Vaughn's interview with Senator Kennedy, for example, and he's saying that the substance is really great here because Elon Musk is directed at cutting spending, I'm also reminded of the fact that a federal district judge in D.C. yesterday entered the second temporary restraining order against that OMB memo that was supposedly going to freeze all federal spending for a particular period of time. And she says unambiguously in that order, whatever you call it, whether or not that memo was rescinded, any action that has the effect of carrying out what that memo said it was going to do, that's enjoined indefinitely. So if Elon Musk is continuing to slash and burn budget line items that have already been appropriated and already been awarded, he's in violation of a court order, and we're going to have to see how that's all going to play out.